I do honestly feel that if Mekhi Becton didn't get hurt and Corey Davis were healthy and you had the 2-star offensive linemen and the 2 best receivers being Elijah Moore and Corey Davis on the field for more games, they're not picking in the top 10. I think that those 2 injuries hurt them really bad.
Yeah, we lost Carl Lawson.
Yeah.
May, as many personal issues as he had, was playing pretty well for when he was playing until he got hurt, week 8 or something. We had a ton of injuries this year. I think we're going to see some market improvement. You're hoping that Zach takes the next step, obviously, and a lot's predicated on him doing so. But I think you're going to see improvement across the board next season, full off season with the coaches and everything, and really implementing their system. I'm thinking 23 start really ramping up and seeing, I think you have to give head coaches, 2 to 3 years unless they really are showing themselves to be terrible.
You mean like
and
calling?
Salah's, sorry?
No, you finish. I'll say what I got to say after.
Oh, I was just saying, Salah, I like everything he says. He's really sharp. He seems like a true leader. So I'm looking ahead. I'm not gonna, this season was always going to be a wash, and for anyone to expect different, they're crazy.
Yeah. So you're talking about giving a head coach 2 to 3 years. I said unless they call back-to-back quarterback sneaks within your own 5-yard line. I literally had just defended Joe Judge moments before he did that and said, hey, he's working with, Nick Gates got hurt. Before he got hurt, their offensive line was showing improvement and this and this. And I think Judge is going to be a good head coach. And then I was talking to my friend Austin as I was watching, and then he called the first quarterback sneak. I was like, all right, that's not horrible. Give your quarterback some room to be able to drop back and, step up really and get out of the end zone in case someone's coming. And then they called a second one on 3rd down, and I was like, well, what's the point in that? Like, call a draw play, because at least that has a chance to work. You're just at that point, you're just saying, hey, we're not even trying to win here. And it's dumb. It was dumb, and he got fired for it.
Yeah, he was like the least aggressive head coach of his entire tenure, just constantly punting, even when everything said that you should go for it. There's a cowardly index that they show, and he was constantly at the top of it because he just refused to go for it on 4th down, which you can't do. You have to take some risks as a head coach. And he, so this was Judge's. Was this his 3rd year?
First year.
No, this wasn't his first year.
Pretty sure.
I'm pretty sure this is at least his second year. Yeah.
Was it? Give me a second.
Yep, just found it. 2 seasons.
Okay.
But that's fine. He proved himself to be utterly incompetent. Very similar to Adam Gase. Gase, obviously should have never been hired in the first place. Judge at least had, a track record of some success as a coordinator, which, obviously Gase had that too, but he utterly failed for the Dolphins, and then you hired him for the Jets. The Giants were at least reasonable in hiring him.
Right.
In hiring Joe Judge.
I just never understood right from the beginning of that hire why, excuse me, why are you hiring a special teams coach to become your next head coach? Why are you, no offense to special teams coaches, they're important, obviously. But
Harbaugh would argue with you.
Yeah, I understand, but if he didn't have a dynamic quarterback like Lamar or Huntley, who is, not the greatest quarterback, but he's at least athletic enough to do some of the things Lamar can. If he had Joe Flacco...
He did it with Joe Flacco, right? I wouldn't call Joe Flacco a dynamic.
I was just going to say, if he had Joe Flacco now, he wouldn't be doing that with Joe Flacco now. I love how we were both using
legend Joe Flacco.
We were both using Joe Flacco as an example. You're using Joe Flacco from 8 years ago, and I'm using Joe Flacco from 8 days ago. But yeah, he's very risky. He likes to gamble, and that's where a lot of football seems to be heading these days. So you really can't blame him for that. But special teams coaches are necessary, but I would at least like my head coach to have been a coordinator and not just, a very limited group of people.
Yeah, I think, I'd be willing to give a special teams coach like a head coach assistant job, or like if they wanted to try and step up into being a DC or an OC, I think that's the logical step. No offense to special teams coaches, but I think to be a head coach, you need most of the time more experience on one side of the ball or the other. Harbaugh I mentioned, but he's really the exception to the rule. Right.
But Harbaugh also came from a brilliant football family and had the pedigree going into it. So
right.
it all depends. But yeah, so Joe Judge fired. Brian Flores, biggest shock in a long time. For the first time in a long time, they've had back-to-back solid seasons, the Dolphins, and then they fired their head coach.
Oh, I absolutely love this because it's so stupid.
As a football fan, I hate it.
Flores is going to get hired immediately, as he should. He's like the opposite of Gase. Like, went in. They tried to call his record like 24-25 overall because his first season when they had like the worst roster in football, and they were expected to, I think every analyst had them at like 1 win, and they still won 5. And then the next 2 seasons, winning seasons. Like, they started off rough this year, but then went on a huge winning streak to end the year. Really, just had bad luck with not making playoffs. And then to fire him is just crazy. He was getting the most out of that team for sure. They were overachieving. But as a Jets fan, love it. Keep firing good coaches, Dolphins.
Yep. And sometimes you look at things with stats-wise, and you don't take everything into account. And I'm going to use this to my to further an agenda of mine. All I'm seeing is how horrible Trevon Diggs is, because he's given up what people are saying is over 1,000 yards. He gave up 907. He didn't get to 1,000. Is that a lot of yards?
Also,
it is a lot of yards. It is.
He's a ball hawk. He's gonna take risks to try and get the interception, and if he messes up, then he's gonna let up a catch. You do kind of live and die by that when you're a ball hawk. But he's obviously got a crazy high number of interceptions. Quarterbacks are not confident when throwing the ball his way. It's kind of crazy to me to just drop those stats. It's people that are just looking at numbers and not watching the game.
I don't even think the numbers make sense, because again, they're using numbers from I don't know where, but I look at Pro Football Reference, which is where I take all of my non-objective or non-subjective stats from. Those are objective NFL people using those stats. But anyways, he's given up 4 touchdowns on the season, which isn't the best, but it's also not bad, with 11 interceptions. In addition to those 11 interceptions, He's got 22 passes defended and 54 tackles at the corner position. Like those, I am of the mindset that yards are the most useless stat in the NFL, in all of football. You want a recent example? The college football playoff. Heisman winner Bryce Young. All right. He had 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions, but he threw for 400 yards in a 17-point loss. Did he have a good game? He had 400 yards. No, he didn't have a good game. Yards are irrelevant. I think, in my opinion, yards are the most irrelevant offensive stat there is. And another example, I know people are going to hate hearing me say this, but I said Kyle Pitts was not going to be the tight end everyone thought he was going to be, and I'd rather have a tight end like Pat Freiermuth. Kyle Pitts has over 1,000 receiving yards. He has 1 touchdown. Pat Freiermuth has 7 touchdowns. Now, which one is doing more to help their team? The points or the yards? I'd rather have a tight end that I can target in the red zone and will catch those tough balls short. That is what my ideal tight end is, and one that can block. Great for Kyle Pitts.
To be fair, those are 2 wildly different team situations. Pitts is not a great blocker, and Freiermuth is a much more traditional tight end. But I think if the Falcons have a healthy Calvin Ridley like they did to start the season, Pitts is far more productive, especially in the end zone. When he's the only target that you have to lock down as a defense, he's not going to have a great time, especially as a rookie.
It took him 7.
Pitts is not it yet. I think, and tight ends are the longest to adjust to the NFL too. So
it took him 7 games to get his first touchdown, and Ridley was there. Ridley's been out for half the year and has twice as many touchdowns.
Right, but without Ridley, he's now the only target for the corners and safeties to really pay a ton of attention to. They got Gage back for like a couple of games, but Gage isn't even that big of a threat. So I completely understand what you're saying, and yeah, fantasy wise, I was thinking the same thing. I wasn't targeting Pitts anywhere, but he passes the eye test for sure as a catcher, as a pass catcher. So I wouldn't be concerned with him going forward as an NFL player at all.
He's very similar in the usage to Julio, guy who's going to get you the catches and the yards, but he's not going to get a touchdown for you.
Right now, yeah, we'll give them another receiver. We'll see. Matt Ryan's also kind of weird with that. Like he gets to the end zone and then he stops looking at his favorite target for some reason.
Matt Ryan sucks. He's got to go.
Yeah,
Matt Ryan.
They definitely need to look toward the future for the quarterback position.
Matt Ryan.
He's getting to be washed up.
Matt Ryan, throughout his career, been very clutch. Earned the nickname Matty Ice. Stood in the pocket, made those difficult throws, knowing he was going to get smacked. All the typical things you want a quarterback to do. In my opinion, he's a Hall of Famer. I know a lot of people would disagree. I think he's earned at least a look at the Hall of Fame. But he just needs to fucking retire. He needs to retire. Cam Newton? Yeah, Cam Newton's got to retire too. We got about 7 minutes before we got to take our first break. And let's just go through and talk about the other coaching vacancies. We got Jacksonville fired Urban Meyer. We've got...
Called that.
Yeah, we all did.
Season record? I mean, not even made a full season, right?
Yeah.
First time ever?
I think so. So we got him. We've got the Raiders. We've got the Bears, the Dolphins, the Broncos, and I think there's one more. Vikings. And the Vikings.
Yeah, Zimmer's gone.
Yep. Coaching candidates who are out there, Brian Flores, obviously. I think Kellen Moore is going to